Think back to just a typical school day, right? You've got the bells ringing, the chatter in the hallways, that clock just ticking so slowly. It's a routine we all know so well, and it feels like, one of the safest places you can be. But what happens when all of that gets shattered in a heartbeat? Well, that's what we're going to dive into.
So picture this. It's a calculus class. It's seventh period on a Friday afternoon. The week is almost over. You can just feel it in the air, right? Spring break is right there, and everyone is just buzzing, just waiting for that final bell to ring.
And the teacher, super laid-back guy. He's already kind of given up on the lesson for the day. Instead, he's just playing one of those brand logo quizzes on Sporkle with the class. I mean, it's just relaxed. Totally normal. It feels safe.
And that really is the question, isn't it? What happens when the drill isn't a drill? Today, we're going to look at 3 true stories from people who lived through moments exactly like this. We're about to go from a simple logo quiz to a life or death situation. All right, so our first story kicks off right there in that calculus class. And the threat here is something you can't see. It's just a sound, a voice in the hall that keeps getting closer. And boom, just like that, everything changes. I mean, 1 second, a student is yelling out Adidas for the quiz, and the very next, the dean's voice, totally panicked, comes crackling over the loudspeaker. This is not a drill. The teacher, who's usually so chill, just slams the door shut, hits the lights. The whole room goes dark and silent. But that silence, it doesn't last long. First, the power to the whole school cuts out, and then a man starts screaming out in the hallway. Okay, and you have to imagine the sounds here. First, the screaming gets louder, closer. Then you hear this frantic banging on the lockers outside. And in between the bangs, you hear this absolutely bone-chilling threat. I'll kill all of you. The banging moves from the lockers right to their classroom door. Can you even imagine that? He's just pounding on the door, screaming, "Open up." And inside, students are just crying, completely terrified. So the guy eventually moves on, and they get a partial all clear. But the story doesn't end there, not even close. Later that night, a janitor finds the man asleep in a storage closet. And get this, sticking out of his pocket is a .44 Magnum. But before the cops can even get there, he's gone, vanished. And to this day, the students from that class have no clue if he was ever actually caught. It's just so terrifying. A faceless threat that just appears and disappears, leaving nothing but questions behind. Okay, so our second story completely flips the script. This time, the threat isn't some mystery voice in the hallway. No, this time it's a known danger, something you can see right outside the school window.
So it's lunchtime. It's one of those overcast, rainy days. And suddenly, 4 loud booms echo across the campus. The first thing everyone thinks? Thunder. Makes sense, right? But then the entire lunchroom just erupts in screams. Security guards are yelling, shoving everyone into the multipurpose room.
So what in the world was going on? Well, one of the students actually managed to ask an adult what was happening and came back with this absolutely chilling piece of information. There was a man in a house directly in front of the school who had barricaded himself inside. Turns out he was a registered sex offender. He'd been seen watching the kids before in a really creepy way, and now he was threatening to kill himself and any police who tried to evict him. The danger wasn't just close, it had been hiding in plain sight this whole time. And this is where a memory, a past event, just suddenly snaps into horrifying focus. See, one of the student's friends lived right next door to this guy, and the Halloween before, she had seen him at his window cutting his own arm and writing this exact message on the glass, in his own blood. Back then, they just blew it off as some sick Halloween prank. But now, they knew he was deadly serious. It's a totally different kind of fear, right? It's not the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of a known danger that you just chose to ignore. All right, our last story. This one is the most direct and honestly the most terrifying. Here, the person telling the story doesn't just hear the threat or see it from far away. No, he comes face to face with it, in the dark, and he thinks he's found someone to hide with. So our narrator is a young intern, and he's all alone in this basement office just eating his lunch. He gets a phone call. Lockdown. There's someone armed in the building.
So he does what you're supposed to do. He kills the lights, he hides. And for about 20 minutes, it's just total silence. And then he hears it. The basement door creaks open. And then footsteps, running straight for his office. He scrambles under his desk. You can just imagine his heart pounding out of his chest.
A man walks into the dark office. Our narrator, absolutely terrified, finally crawls out from under the desk, basically begging for his life. But the man grabs his arm, pulls him up, and says, "Hey, it's okay. I'm just down here hiding with you." He says he's a parent, that someone told him to hide down here. And for just a second, there's this wave of relief, you know? Shared fear, safety in numbers.
Right then, his phone buzzes. It's a text from his coworker, Dave. And it says, "Dude, this is crazy. Some guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." And the narrator is literally about to read this text out loud to the man he's hiding with. Until it clicks.
He slowly looks up from his phone screen at the man standing right in front of him. A man wearing jeans, a red plaid shirt, and a reddish-black baseball cap. The person he thought he was hiding with is the person everyone is hiding from. The second the man realizes he's been made, our narrator just bolts. He runs for the stairs, and a gunshot just explodes in that tiny basement. He hears the bullet ricochet off something metal in the dark, but it misses him. He makes it upstairs, and the police, who are already waiting at all the exits, they grab the shooter the second he opens that basement door. So there you have it. 3 stories, 3 lockdowns. And each one explores a totally different kind of terror, right? You have the fear of the unknown, the fear of the known, and then the ultimate fear of betrayal. Let's just quickly break down how these threats were so different and how each situation ended. So you can see here, the danger just showed up in completely different forms. In the first story, it was an unseen voice with a hidden gun who just vanished. In the second, it was a known, visible threat right next door who was eventually caught. And in the third, it was a disguised threat right there in the room with you who was only caught after that terrifyingly close call. What's really so striking is just how random it all is.
You know, in the end, these stories aren't just about what happened in those few hours. They're about what gets left behind. The teacher who was shot in that last story, he survived. But for the narrator, the sound of that gunshot will echo in his mind forever. And it really just leaves us with this final, unsettling question. When the one place that's supposed to be safe becomes the setting for your absolute worst fear, how do you ever really feel safe again?